Human Right in Islam Part 7. A word on public rights and duties. Rights of the people towards the government. Muslims in an Islamic state have certain rights they should expect from their government. These rights may be summarized as follows. Justice. This entails that every person is to be given his fair treatment in the Islamic society. All individuals who are entitled for specific rights must be given their due rights. All individuals who are required to perform certain duties must be treated fairly and without any bias. Responsibilities among individuals must also be distributed justly and fairly. No individual, class or category of people must be given any priority or preference over the others. God says in the Quran, "O you who have believed, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves or parents and relatives. Whether one is rich or poor, Allah is more worthy of both. So follow not personal inclination, lest you not be just. And if you distort your testimony or refuse to give it, then indeed Allah is ever, with what you do, acquainted." 4:135. And God's messenger said, "The most beloved to God on the day of judgment, and the closest to him is a just ruler. And the most hateful to God, and the most distant from him, is an unjust and tyrannical ruler." Tirmidhi, Hadith No. 1329, Consultation. People have the right to be consulted on issues that concern their economic and social affairs. This process of consultation should be done in an ordinary form. The public must be given the opportunity to express their viewpoints and ideas concerning issues related to the Islamic community and society. Such viewpoints may be accepted if they serve the general public interest. God says in the Quran, "So by mercy from Allah, O Muhammad, you were lenient with them. And if you had been rude in speech and harsh in heart, they would have disbanded from about you. So pardon them and ask forgiveness for them and consult them in the matter. And when you have decided, then rely upon Allah. Indeed, Allah loves those who rely upon him." 3:159. On many occasions, God's messenger has followed the advice of his companions. During the Battle of Badr, one of his companions suggested to change the site of the Muslims' fighting camp. One of the Muslims asked the messenger during the battle, "O Prophet of God, is this a place that God commanded you to camp at, and we have no choice of changing it, or is it a war strategy and plan?" God's messenger replied promptly, "No. Rather it is my war strategy." The man who asked suggested, "O Prophet of God, this is not the right choice of place for the fighting camp. Let us search for the closest water reservoir to our enemies and camp there. We should block all other water resources, then build a basin or a water reservoir for our party. When the battle starts we will have access to water, but our enemies will not. Thus we'll be able to drink and use the available water while our enemies would not." God's messenger commented, "You have certainly given the best advice." Ibn Hisham Biography of the Prophet. Islamic ruling. The basis for the Islamic ruling and legal judgment system is called Sharia, Islamic law. The constitution of a Muslim state must be based on the Quran and Sunnah, which are the agreed upon Islamic judicial sources. There should be no room for personal opinion if an authenticated text is available. Islamic law is a comprehensive system of jurisprudence including personal and family law, criminal law, national and international law, which fulfills all requirements of man in the most upright manner since it is based upon the revelations from God to his messenger for the guidance of man. Open door policy. A Muslim ruler must not be aloof when distant from his people nor assign middlemen who are partial, permitting some to see the ruler, while preventing others. This is based on the instructions of God's messenger. Whosoever is entrusted with leadership over the affairs of the Muslims, yet hides away from them and does not respond to their needs, God would not respond to the supplications of such a governor on the day of judgment, causing him to suffer from his own poverty and need. Abu Dawud, Hadith No. 2948. Mercy for people, merciful to his people, never overburdening them beyond their abilities. He must facilitate all means for his people to live and survive in the society in the best possible manner. A Muslim governor must treat an elder man like a father, a youngster like a son, and a person of equal age as a brother. A Muslim governor must be respectful to the elders, kind, merciful to the young, and considerate to individuals of his age group. The Quran informs us about the characteristics of God's messenger, who was the first leader of the Muslim nation. Verily, there is come unto you a messenger, Muhammad Y, from amongst yourselves. It grieves him that you should receive any injury or difficulty. He is deeply concerned about you, and to the believers is kind and merciful. 9:128. God's messenger also advised those who are merciful and kind to one another, may God be merciful and kind to them. Be merciful to people on earth, God will be merciful to you. Abu Dawud, Hadith No. 4941 and Tirmidhi, Hadith number 1924. Omar bin al-Khattab, the second Muslim caliph, was so concerned about his responsibility before God that once he said, "By God, had a mule tripped in Iraq, I would be afraid that I would be asked about it by God on the day of judgment. Oh Omar, why did you not pave the way for the mule?" Rights of neighbors. God ordained in the glorious Quran. Worship God and join none with him in worship, and do good to parents, kinsfolk, orphans, the poor, the neighbor who is near of kin, the neighbor who is a stranger, the companion by your side, the wayfarer you meet, and those whom your right hands possess. Verily, God does not like such as are proud and boastful. 436. Islam classifies neighbors into three categories, which are as follows: a neighbor who is a relative and also Muslim. This type of neighbor has three rights over you: the right of kin, the right of neighbors, and the right of Islam. A Muslim neighbor has two rights: the right of a neighbor and the right of Islam. A non-Muslim neighbor enjoys the right of being a neighbor. Abdullah bin Omar came home once and found that his family members had slaughtered a sheep. He immediately asked, "Did you offer some of the sheep's meat as a present to our Jewish neighbor, for I heard God's messenger saying, Angel Gabriel continued to advise me to be kind to my neighbor until I thought that he was going to give him a share in the inheritance." Tirmidhi, Hadith No. 2007, causing inconvenience to the neighbor is against Islam. The Prophet said, "By God he does not believe, by God he does not believe, by God he does not believe." It was said, "Who, O Messenger of God?" He said, "The one whose neighbor is not safe from his harm." Bukhari, Hadith number 5670. Is reported that God's messenger illustrated the rights of a neighbor as follows. Do you know what are the rights of a neighbor? They are as follows: if a neighbor seeks your help, extend it to him. If a neighbor asks you for a loan, lend him if you have it. If your neighbor becomes poor, then help him financially and attend to his poverty if you can. If your neighbor becomes ill, then visit him, checking on his health and well-being. If your neighbor is happy, then congratulate him. If your neighbor is suffering a calamity, then offer him condolences. If your neighbor dies, then attend his funeral, if you can. Do not raise your building over his building, so that he would have no sun exposure or wind passage. Do not bother your neighbor with the smell of your cooking, unless you intend to offer him some of the cooked food. Tabarani, Hadith No. 1014. Even when the neighbor causes harm, good behavior is advised. A man complained to Abdullah ibn Abbas, "My neighbor harms me and curses me." So he said to him, "He disobeyed God in your affair, so go and obey God in his affair." Rights of friends and guests. Rights of the friends. Friends enjoy certain rights according to Islam. This is based on the guiding directives of God's messenger. The best companions in the sight of God are the ones who are best to their companions, and the best of neighbors in the sight of God are the ones who are best to their neighbors. Tirmidhi number 1944. And Sahih ibn Khuzaimah, Hadith No. 2539, Rights of the guests. A host is obliged to honor his guest in Islam. The Prophet has said, "Whoever believes in God and the last day, he shall honor his neighbor. And whoever believes in God and the last day, he shall honor his guest according to his right." The man asked, "And what is his right, O Messenger of God?" As he said, "One day and one night and hospitality for 3 days, and whatever is more than that, then it is charity on the host's part. And whoever believes in God and the last day, he shall speak good or stay quiet." Bukhari, Hadith number 5673. The manners of honoring the guests include giving a warm welcome with a happy face. Similarly, it is obligatory on the guest to be considerate about the host's condition and not to overburden him, as the Prophet has said. It is not allowed for a Muslim to stay with his brother until he causes him to sin. They said, "O Messenger of God, and how does he cause him to sin?" He said, "He stays with him and he does not have anything to offer." Muslim, Hadith number 48. Rights of the poor. God praises those who spend for his cause in order to help the poor and the needy in the Islamic society. This is based on the instructions of the Quran. And in their wealth is a recognized right. For the needy who asks and the one who is deprived. 70:24-25. As a matter of fact, Islam regards the charity given to the poor and the needy as one of the most virtuous deeds. Moreover, Islam warns those who conceal and save up their wealth and do not spend for the cause of God. God says in the Quran, "It is not righteousness that you turn your faces towards east or west. But righteousness is to believe in God and the last day, and the angels, and the book, and the prophets, and to give of your wealth out of love for him. To your kin and orphans and the needy and the wayfarer and those who ask, and for the ransom of slaves." 2:177. The ones who accumulate the wealth without giving the due right of the poor and needy as commanded by God, are promised by God that they will receive a severe punishment on the day of judgment. God says in the Quran, "And those who hoard up gold and silver and do not spend in the path of God, then warn them of a painful torment." 9:34. For this reason, the charity of zakah was prescribed as one of the basic tenets of Islam. Zakah is a set percentage, 2.5%, of the accumulated wealth over a period of 1 year. Muslims willingly offer the due amount in obedience to God's commands. They pay it to the poor and the needy. Zakah is obligatory upon those who possess the appropriate amount on which zakah is due. God states in the Quran, "And they were commanded not except to worship God, offering him alone sincere devotion, being true in faith, to establish regular prayer, and to give calculated charity. And that is the right religion." 98:5. Zakah is prescribed with the following principles and conditions. 1. The person to pay zakah must possess nisab, the minimum financial threshold beyond which one becomes liable for paying zakah. 2. A period of 1 year must pass while the owner maintains this amount in his possession. If less than a year passes, zakah will not be required. Islam defines the types of people who are entitled to receive zakah. This is based on the statement in the Quran. Zakah expenditures are only for the poor and for the needy and for those employed to collect zakah, and for bringing hearts together, for Islam, and for freeing captives or slaves, and for those in debt and for the cause of Allah and for the stranded, traveler and obligation imposed by Allah. And Allah is knowing and wise. 9:60. Islam imposes zakah in order to uproot poverty from the Islamic society, treat the resulting problems stemming from poverty such as theft, murder, attacking people, and taking their property unjustly. In addition, it revives the mutual social welfare and support among members of the Islamic society. Furthermore, zakah is used to fulfill the needs of the needy, the destitute, and to pay the debts of those who have debts and are not able to pay their debts due to a sound and legitimate reason. Moreover, the payment of zakah purifies one's heart, soul, and wealth as well. An owner of a wealth will become less selfish and greedy when they pay this charity with a pure heart. The Almighty states in the Quran, "And those saved from the covetousness of their own souls, they are the ones that achieve prosperity." 64:16. Zakah purifies the hearts of those who are less affluent since they will have less hatred, jealousy and bitterness against the rich and wealthy class of people of the society because they see that they are paying their just dues and the rights to their poorer brethren. Almighty God warns those who refuse to pay their due zakah against a severe punishment. He states in the Quran, "And let not those who, greedily, withhold what Allah has given them of his bounty ever think that it is better for them. Rather, it is worse for them, their necks will be encircled by what they withheld on the day of resurrection. And to Allah belongs the heritage of the heavens and the earth. And Allah, with what you do, is fully acquainted." 3:180.